Understanding our connection to water, an Anishinaabe woman's perspective. Ani, Wabishkanokmikwe, Minwa, Tammy Charles, Indigenous, Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation, Ndonjaba, Maingandodam, Anishinaabe Kwenda. Hello, my spirit name is White Mountain Woman. My English name is Tammy Charles. I come from the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation. My clan is the Wolf Clan, and I am an Anishinaabe woman. I have been asked to talk about something that I hold dear to my heart, and something that I care deeply for, the water. Nebe is the Ojibwe word we use in our community for water. I would like to start by clarifying that it makes more sense to me to say I will speak for the water, as I am a woman and a water carrier, and as an Anishinaabe woman, it is part of our original instructions or natural law from Creator that we are to protect and care for the water. In this first chapter, I will talk about the beginning, how my ancestors lived among creation, or nature, as some may say, and how there was a strong connection between everything. This artist is from the Treaty 3 territory, which is a territory spanning from the west of Thunder Bay to north of Sioux Lookout, along the international border to the province of Manitoba, and is made up of 28 communities. This piece resonates with me. I found it to be a beautiful representation of our creation story. I have heard our creation story told by a few knowledge carriers and elders over the years, and the parts that always stand out for me are the fact that we come from water and that the animals helped us Anishinaabe people to survive on this planet. The earth and all living beings were created, everything living in equilibrium. Anishinaabe people have always lived in balance and harmony with Mother Earth, never abusing gifts that were given to us, never taking more than we needed, and never wasting the valuable resources that Mother Earth provides. Always giving thanks and living in gratitude for life, for all life. Where I come from, in our language, we use Nebe to represent that sacred being, that sacred living being you all know as water. Explained by one of our language and knowledge carriers, Barbara Nolan, Ne indicates the water goes away from you, and Be indicates the water comes towards you. You cannot just say Ne or Be. You cannot have one without the other. You need them both because they are working together reciprocally. Anishinaabe people have always had that reciprocal relationship with Nebe and everything on this earth. We understand and acknowledge that we come from water, we love and respect her as our life giver and the blood of Mother Earth. Please understand that when I speak about Nebe, I refer to the water as a her. Like a woman, she gives life, and without her, nothing would grow. We are all made of water. Water flows within us, and she flows through us. When I look at this painting, it reminds me of how connected we all are. The water, the land, the animals, the trees, and the plants. Everything a beautiful dance of spirits in movement and balance. It hurts to see how far from this beautiful dance of connection we have strayed. How we have always lived and how we are meant to live on this planet. The connection between life and water has always been and will always be. We cannot live without Nebe. She gives us life, she has spirit, and she is alive just like we are. In the beginning, Anishinaabe people were given our instructions, natural ways of being and knowing on how we were to coexist on this planet. The earth, water, air, and fire were asked to provide for us all, and they do. Everything we needed to live happy, healthy lives has always been provided. Just look around. The plants were asked to heal and provide for us. Traditionally, we were taught very young which plants heal and which ones were teas we could utilize for teas, and which ones we could utilize for food. The animals were asked to provide food for us with their lives and warmth for us with their furs. Anishinaabe people utilized every part of the animal, and nothing was ever wasted. We always give thanks for what they continue to provide for us even today. They are also our teachers. Through watching and listening to them, as well as living in unison with them, we learn the cycles of life and how to take care of everything on earth. We learned how to coexist in balance and harmony. Anishinaabe people were the last to be lowered to the earth, and I have heard feet first. And in this connection, that helps us to remember to walk gently on Mother Earth. It is well known to Anishinaabe people and starting to be recognized by Western society that we call North America Turtle Island. I have heard through stories shared that the turtle gave so lovingly their back to allow for Akikwe, to be formed and all life to grow. Aki is the word we use in my community to represent the earth, the land, the ground, Mother Earth. From my perspective, I see the turtle as the bridge between Nebe and Aki, providing the space for Mother Earth to be formed. Turtle gave their back for all living things to grow, families to be grown, create their homes, live their lives, including us as human beings, the youngest of all living beings on Turtle Island. Anishinaabe people are a nomadic people. We were never meant to be stationary. We lived and traveled all over Turtle Island. We did not live for personal or monetary gain. We never had a want or a need to have more than anyone else, including our families and our communities. We never saw ourselves above our relatives, the animals, and the plant beings. We lived in a way that supported all life, all living beings. We lived with natural consequences and natural laws embedded within everyday life. Our children were nurtured and taught in a way that was in movement and with flow of life, and always in the present moment of living life. We did not allow ourselves to become stuck worrying about the past or the future. We understood that if something was happening to the world around us, then we must be playing a part in that as well. We are all connected. We knew when to move and change for the summer and when to move and change for the winter, just as the animals and the birds do to this very day. Life was filled with gratitude, giving thanks daily for the beauty and abundance that Aki and Nebe continue to give. We spoke often with our relatives, which included the animals, the plants, Nebe, and Aki. We talked to them in the same way in which we would speak to each other or anyone else. Understanding that everything is alive, has spirit, and is interconnected. We are family. Nindwendanak is a word I have learned, and it is used when I'm talking about my family. This word speaks about the real unconditional love. I have had quite a few teachers and knowledge carriers along my journey who have helped me to learn our language. I am still just beginning to learn Anishinaabe Moen, and I am grateful every day, recognizing that many do not have the gift of learning our language. There is no separation between who we are and our language. Love and kindness were the first teachings learned when we are born, and they still are to this day. My ancestors modeled this every day through their interactions with each other and with the world around them. Living in harmony with Aki and the environment, you could see and feel that love and kindness when you looked around at the green, healthy trees, seeing the richness of the flora and fauna, the amazing, beautiful blue waters, and the fresh, clean air, and the many ecosystems and cycles of life that were continuously moving through generations of life cycles, moving at a pace that was natural and not forced. Even our language, Anishinaabe Moen, is alive and has spirit. Anishinaabe Moen is a verb-based language. It is continuously talking about the movement of life. It is alive. Every word spoken has intention, connection. It is describing something that is seen and unseen, full of feeling. It is intrinsically connected to us as Anishinaabe people, the world around us, our Mother the Earth, and every living being, especially Nebe, our life giver, nourisher, our sacred shared gift. Our language is a part of who we are as Anishinaabe people. It is a part of our culture and a part of our way of life. You cannot have one without the other. All of the animals, plants, and the elements understand Anishinaabe Moin, and it is how Creator recognizes who we are when we speak and when we give our true names and clans. We are still fighting even now to regain our language and culture from the brutal attempts of genocide, assimilation, and residential schools. Western society is now recognizing the invaluable gifts that we bring as Anishinaabe people, our ways of knowing and being, the kind and gentle ways in which we coexist with the world around us, and how before contact, nature flourished in the most beautiful ways. We are a resilient, strong, and unconditionally loving people. When we fight for Nabe, the water, and we fight for Aki, the land, we are fighting for all of us. This picture comes from a very special book, one that I cherish and look to often, the Sacred Water Book. This book has so many special and beautiful and important teachings, insights, and knowledge shared from many First Nation elders, knowledge carriers, teachers, and caring individuals who have been loving, respecting, and fighting for the world's most precious shared gift and priceless resource, the water. Through the reflection in the water, we can see the harmonious connection between all living beings. The water reflects the understanding between all beings that we are interconnected, and there is a mutual love, kindness, and respect among all things. So above, so below. What you do to one, you do to the other. What we do to Nabe and Aki, we also do to ourselves. Anishinaabe people have always understood our connection to every being, everyone and everything supporting and helping each other to live healthy and thriving lives, showing gratitude for each other and for life. It has never been an us and them situation. We are all relatives. We are all family. The peace, love, and serenity reflected in this picture speaks volumes to how beautiful and sacred Nabe and Aki are. I feel so much happiness and joy when I see this picture. I smile and my heart fills with love, gratitude, and appreciation for all of the sacred gifts that Mother Earth and creation give. I cannot imagine a world where they do not exist. We must do everything in our power to protect, nourish, and show them love, for they play a vital role in our survival, as much as we play a vital role in their survival. We have always had everything we could ever want or need on this planet. We forget that Nabe and Aki have always been here and will always be here. We cannot live without the nourishment Nabe so selflessly shares with us every single day. It is so very important we protect Nabe and work together to live in balance with everything around us, allowing nature to teach us how to teach us how to treat each other and the environment we are blessed to share in this life. Every living being has a role in nature and lives in coexistence with each other in a reciprocal, loving, and kind, respectful way. Human beings are the only ones who have lost that connection and reciprocity for everything. There is no harmonious coexistence, no balance. It is all about money, power, and greed. The wasting of valuable resources, our trees, the plants, animals are being displaced all over Turtle Island and their lives lost. This is not progress. This is destruction, and a catastrophe of the worst kind. This is the disrespect, devastation, and violation of the land, and the poisoning of our most sacred and valuable shared resource, Nabe. Without Nabe, we will not survive. You can live without food for a time. No one can live without water. In this chapter, I will speak about the loss of connection that has taken place and continues to exist in our present time. There are so many everyday practices, materials, and poisonous substances seeping into our waters and our waterways, whether it be in rural, urban areas, cities, or industrial spaces. Nabe is being attacked from all sides at this present time. I fear humanity is not fully grasping the catastrophic effects that all of this will have on our next 7 generations to come. Just because we cannot see immediately what is happening does not mean that it is not still happening. This is not the time for out of sight, out of mind. Everything we do has consequences. How we treat the earth and each other has consequences. Climate change is happening. The world is getting warmer. We need healthy, clean water more now than ever before. Anything and everything that we can do now that helps reduce the harmful impact we are having on Nabe and Aki will be reciprocated in the most beautiful way. I imagine a world where everyone can drink the water, a time where she is healthy, strong, and loved. This picture may seem obvious and self-explanatory. However, looking at this picture, it is not the obvious we need to focus on. It is the unnoticed, the unthought of, the unseen. That's what I cannot help but focus on. I see very little coexistence with Mother Earth, very little room for natural waterways and animal habitats. I see no places for our animal and plant relatives to live and thrive. I see very little space for Nabe, our life giver, our life nourisher, to flow freely and openly. Nabe has been caged in and surrounded by development, smothered in so many ways, due to expansion and growth with no forethought. So many buildings, industrial, retail outlets, highways and housing projects, subdivisions and apartment buildings. The natural pathways that water would have traveled cut off. The bay has been cut off from reaching her family. The streams, rivers, lakes, big and small, the oceans, the seas. The bay is being forced into small confined spaces such as pipelines, drain pipes, and plastic bottles. Traveling in unfamiliar and unnatural ways, sharp turns and twists inside corroded, rusty metal tunnels and hard plastic tunnels without any real thought or feeling about the pressure or pain of that existence. Water always travels forward, never backwards, and she never stops. Can you imagine what this must be like? Try tying yourself in knots and then have someone stuff you into a small jar and shake you up and down. Remember how important she is, how sacred she is, and how crucial it is that we protect her, show her unconditional love and kindness. Nabe deserves that. That is the least we could do for everything that she has always freely given to us. Always showing gratitude for the water, for giving us life we have. What a gift. It is also important to remember that gentleness, when planning development projects, planning while including unconditional love and respect for Nabe. This is how we ensure a healthy and strong future for everyone, especially those 7 generations not yet born. Acknowledging Nabe, Aki, the plants, and the animals, remembering that they are our relatives, our family, and when we do things in a good way, we leave the earth better than we found it for our future generations. In this present time, we have not been following our original instructions, those natural laws. Humanity has lost that connection to everything. This picture comes from a children's coloring book inspired by Josephine Mendame, Grandmother Water Walker. I had the honor of walking for the water and meeting Grandmother Josephine. She spent time with us sharing and teaching us about Nabe as we walked for the water. Nokmis is the word we use in our community for grandmother. Josephine, to many of us, was Nokomis. She was also an elder. She was a mother, she was a knowledge carrier and a role model, teacher, and huge advocate for the water. And she was the Anishinaabe Nation Chief Water Commissioner. She left the legacy of protecting the waters to her great niece, whose name you may have heard, Autumn Peltier, an internationally recognized Anishinaabe water warrior. While we walked for the waters, Grandmother Josephine shared how powerful Nabe is, and how Nabe feels everything that we say, think, and feel. While we are walking for the water, we are in ceremony. Every intention is felt by Nabe, remembering to have kindness in your heart and your mind, your whole being, your entire body, while you walk on Mother Earth. This is so very important in helping the Bay to heal, sending her that good, loving energy, respect, and prayers, unconditional love. This picture shows us that there are many living beings harmed whenever there is advancement, some big plan for development, with no forethought. The ability to hear nature has been lost, and now their voices are not being heard. Their actions and ways of being are ignored and disregarded. Anishinaabe people have always understood our responsibility to speak up for them, to protect them, and advocate for all living beings, from the Bay, Aki, the animals, plants, the fish, as they are our life sustainers. When we stop and reflect, who is really progressing? When the land is bare from deforestation, the water's poisoned, we cannot eat money and we cannot drink oil. Think back to when you were a child. I was blessed enough to swim and drink from the lake outside my home, play in the puddles and catch frogs in the natural wetlands and the marsh. Now my children have to worry about beach closures due to high levels of bacteria, boil water advisories, or not being able to drink the water at all. And they are lucky if they can see frogs, let alone catch them. We are losing the ability to interact with nature in those playful ways, and Nabe and Aki feel that disconnect. How do I know this? Look around. Look at all the destruction, the pollution, the climate change. For our relatives, Nabe and Aki, this disconnect is like losing a relationship with a close family member, and it hurts them just the same as it does us. Nabe is a powerful being who has been taking care of us since before we were born, and it is our turn to remember our agreement to take care of her and the planet. Water is the most precious and sacred gift, and how are you doing your part to be kind and gentle with her? How are you showing her unconditional love? In what ways are you creating natural filtration systems or green spaces for stormwater runoffs or household wastewater runoffs? How are you protecting her and providing alternatives in your daily lives to not contaminate, waste, pollute, or poison her for future generations? Grassy Narrows is an Ojibwe First Nation and reserve located north of Kenora, Ontario. Between 1962 and 1970, Dryden Chemicals Limited dumped mercury into the English Wabigoon River system. Dryden is located upstream from Grassy Narrows. In April of 2020, the federal government committed to fully fund a care home in Grassy Narrows for those suffering from mercury poison. The government also agreed to provide the community with long-term funding for operation and maintenance of that home, proving that what had been done was horrific and detrimental to not only the health and well-being of the members of the First Nation, but also to the health and well-being of the waters. This led to the poisoning of the water and the fish, which is the staple food of the Grassy Narrows First Nation. This is just one of the many examples of how disrespected Indigenous people are, and equally how disrespected the water is. Environmental racism is the disproportionate proximity and greater exposure of Indigenous peoples, Black, and other racialized communities to polluting industries' environmental hazardous activities. In Canada, Indigenous, African, and Nova Scotian communities have been the most impacted by environmental racism. Due to the lack of political power that these communities have to fight back against placement of these industries in their communities. Due to the implementation of policies that allow these harmful projects to be placed in these communities, as well as the slow rates of cleanup of contaminants and pollutants in racialized communities. Also, the lack of representation of Indigenous, Black, and other racialized communities in mainstream environmental groups and on decision-making boards, commissions, and regulatory bodies. The Grassy Narrows community was under a long-term drinking water advisory from about 2013 to October 2020. Grassy Narrows, like many other Indigenous communities here on Turtle Island, go without clean drinking water to bathe themselves, clean water to bathe their children, clean water that we take for granted every day when we make our coffee, take a shower, clean our homes, water our gardens, hydrate our bodies. The bay has always been available for all living beings to share and enjoy. Clean, healthy, and pure, a sacred gift from Creator. When I look at what is happening to the bay all over Turtle Island, the disrespect, ungratefulness, the lack of connection to this valuable and vulnerable resource. As an Anishinaabe woman, my heart aches. As Anishinaabe people, we are hurting spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically, watching our relative, our family member in the bay, polluted, sick, and in pain. The bay has been pushed aside and overlooked for what Western society feels is progress for the future, when the reality is it is more about the monetary gain in the present. Clearing acres of land that cannot be undone, trees torn apart, ecosystems and habitats that are all connected. Once severed, will most likely never be recreated or restored. Tearing apart lifetimes of family connections because these habitats and ecosystems are families. As I mentioned earlier in the bay's cries for love and kindness have been ignored. She is infested with sickness and disease, a true sign of dis-ease. I see this dis-ease when I look around Turtle Island and I see the bay's once beautiful rushing blue waters, now a slow, sluggish brown. Her warm and loving womb unable to provide the sustenance for all the many water species, aquatic plants, and fish, which are the staple food for many First Nation communities. She is noticeably forgotten and her heart broken. I can feel that heart break when I sit at the water's edge, offer my sama, and talk to her, listen to the waves gently moving along the receding shoreline, and how the waters are discolored and full of unnecessary green overgrowth, the noticeable temperature changes and fluctuations, phosphorus levels at their all-time highs and continuously climbing. We need to do better. I will continue to repeat myself until it is understood. The bay is our precious and sacred shared gift, the most precious. It is our responsibility to protect her and do everything that we can to help her and give back to her, restore relationships with her, help her to heal. By now you must have heard of Dr. Emoto and his experiments with water. They reveal that positive emotions such as love, gratitude, and joy had a profound effect on structure of water, the structure of water crystals. When water samples were exposed to these emotions, they formed intricate and harmonious crystal formations. Absolutely beautiful. Anishinaabe people, especially the women, understand that when we pray for Nabe, talk to her, sing to her in our language, singing songs that have been passed down from generation to generation, they are healing. Our ceremonies are so very important to her healing. They let Nabe know how grateful and appreciative we are for everything she gives us. This is what heals her. That is what brings her back to life. Everyone can talk to the water. Everyone can sing to the water. Everyone can offer that gentleness and kindness and unconditional love. In my opinion, this will ultimately uplift and change her overall molecular structure. A chemical reaction takes place. She can feel everything from us, and that will transform and heal. I believe this in every cell of my being to be true. We are all connected, and as she heals, we heal, and as we heal, she heals. In this chapter, I will speak about possibilities, one of my favorite words, as it denotes we are not done yet. There is always room for growth and change. This picture comes from a story that was written about a restoration project that happened in my First Nation community. One of our biggest creeks, Gertie's Creek, was forced to stop running, was completely blocked by development in the name of progress. This is the negative side of progress. A once vibrant habitat, ecological hub for so many beings, including us, community members. It was almost destroyed. It was a place where we played as kids, caught suckerfish with our bare hands, and were able to go and net an abundance of smelts to eat. The waters ran fast and strong, directly flowing into Lake Simcoe. So many living beings accessed this creek for nourishment, and for so many it was home. From the rocks, plants, insects, frogs, waterfowl, to the many smaller creatures, birds, rabbits, fox, and deer. Everything beautiful and healthy, full of life and harmony. Living so close to the water all of my life and having that understanding and connection as an Anishinaabe woman, true coexistence with everything seems to be lost in these current times. As things progress in our world and humanity grows more impatient, wanting instantaneous gratification instead of slowing down and being grateful for what has always been provided for us in that good way, we are coming to a time where we cannot possibly maintain the planet in a healthy and clean way for all beings if we continue this way. Sometimes we need to go back and look through the eyes of a child, go back to that time when everything was simpler, slower, and remember how easy it was to love everything, be grateful for everything, and how easy it was to be kind and walk gently in balance with everything. Through the eyes of an adult, I can only see how thoughtlessly and ungratefully we are hurting Nabe, and in turn hurting all living things, including ourselves, leaving only destruction, sickness, and chaos for those precious generations that have not been born yet. Traditionally, storytelling is the way in which Indigenous people share our teachings and knowledge. I want the stories and teachings and knowledge that I pass down to my children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren to be those of resilience, perseverance, unconditional love and kindness, stories of how we band together as people and change the course of climate change, water pollution, and destruction. I want them to know that we did everything in our power to give back to Nabe and Aki the way they have always given to us so freely. I wanted to add some photos of the restoration we did in our community. This is Gertie's Creek, completely blocked off from Lake Simcoe and unable to move freely and flow, covered up by dirt and overgrowth in the name of progress. The once strong and bountiful creek now barren and empty, with barely any life surrounding it. No fish, no birds. When you break the connections between the creek's streams and ponds, you not only remove the connection to the bigger bodies of water, who in this case are like big sisters, aunties, and mothers to those little creeks and streams, you break the connection between all life that coexisted within the area. All the homes, ecosystems, families, social gathering between not only the water spirits and aquatic beings and the fish, but the plants, the birds, the big and small animals, and the people. Our community members gathered here to catch smelts and suckers. Our kids stopped to play here, watch the tadpoles grow into frogs. So many lives touched in this place by the water. When you develop these spaces and destroy these habitats, it has a ripple effect that breaks down land and life cycles that have been thriving and surviving for thousands of years. The connections are significant and priceless. Instead of demolishing everything, maybe we can listen to Anishinaabe people, acknowledging that we carry ways of being and knowing that would be beneficial when creating projects and developments that will work harmoniously in ways with Nabe and Aki and the environment. Anishinaabe people would have found ways to work with and not against the natural flora and fauna, work with the animals and the ecosystems, finding ways to incorporate the landscape and, more importantly, the health and well-being of the water and the land. I cannot stress enough that without water, we will not survive. Restoring this creek in our First Nation was a passion project for our community. It came together from a place of love, a need to help this beautiful habitat, valuable ecosystem regain its connection to the Lake Simcoe. Not only is this an area where many living things make their homes, The plants here also provide nourishment and fresh oxygen that Nabe needs to be healthy, clean, and strong. A home where all the fish and water beings and spirits thrive. There are so many possibilities when you are doing restoration projects. Working alongside Mother Nature is the easy part. Human beings are the difficult ones. When we come from a place where the heart leads in a good way, the possibilities are endless. When we stop and take into consideration all living beings within any project or development, something amazing happens. Opportunities emerge and ideas are formed that allow for good progress to occur in a way that is beneficial for everyone. Being able to recognize that the goals should always include the health and well-being of the water and the land. Everything in between automatically thrives because of this, and successful endeavors take place. This also provides the ability for long-term sustainability within these restoration projects. Realizing that balanced, respectful, and reciprocal relationships can be had, and the coexistence naturally takes place. It has always been this way between Anishinaabe people, Nabe, and Akikwe. It has been the lack of connection and broken ties with Mother Earth that has stifled so much abundance and potential in this world. The further the shorelines recede, the less the landmass we will enjoy. Coming from a First Nation community that is surrounded by water, we need as much of our landmass as we can get to continue to have a bountiful and healthy ecological hub that allows for the continued growth and prosperity in nature for generations of medicines, plants, animals, and our community to survive. Changes in natural processes like sediment transport, erosion, and flooding can threaten shoreline properties. Climate change causes some of these changes. Climate change also contributes to more frequent and intense storms. And even this year, I have noticed rain showers happening in the middle of winter, followed by snow. By preserving and restoring physical processes, the natural movement of the water and sediment maintain healthy shorelines, preserving and enhancing shoreline habitat for plant and animal communities and biodiversity. Some examples of climate change impacts on water quality may include increases in sediment, phosphorus loading, and concentrations of contaminants, increases in wind and flood, transportation of nutrients, sediments, and contaminants, drinking water odor and taste problems, as water intakes are subject to increases in algae concentrations. As the world heats up, changes to the environment increase, and the continued damage to Nabe is right along with it. Degrading water qualities has historically placed significant stress onto Lake Simcoe, where I live, its tributaries, and the life support. Stresses from urban, rural, recreational, and agricultural activities have changed the landscape, vegetation, and ecological functions. The primary stressors that degrade water quality include excessive nutrients, primary phosphorus, pollutants, and contaminants, such as heavy metals, organic chemicals, sediments, chlorides, and pathogens such as E. coli. This leads to the excess growth of plants and algae in the lake, excessive growth, which contributes to the depletion of dissolved oxygen in the deep waters of the lake, and degradation of the critical habitat of cold water species. One of the biggest water quality changes in Lake Simcoe is to reduce phosphorus loads to a level at which dissolved oxygen conditions could support a self-sustaining cold water fish community. Fish is an important food in my home community. The water temperatures and health of the water play a huge role in when and if we can eat the fish. We need the water temperatures to be stable and in balance with the seasons, meaning in the winter months when we would catch whitefish, the water needs to be cold as they are bottom feeders and need that cold water for their meat to be healthy. Over the years, we have noticed some of the fish that have been caught are diseased, or their meat is mushy and not eatable. Developing and implementing projects where plants are utilized that can and will survive, living on the shoreline in a harmonious and natural way, is not only key, it is necessary for the success of these shoreline restorations. Bringing back the once beautiful balance that existed between Nebe and Aki. The possibilities are endless when we approach our ideas in a good way, from a good heart and a good mind. Creating green spaces in areas where you find many industrial buildings is a great way to naturally filter any runoff. From buildings, some of this water may be chemically treated or may have come into contact with unhealthy substance or poison. Arranged green spaces in industrial areas are a form of greenery, planted in an organized way, accompanying industrial facilities. When designing large industrial facilities, green spaces need to be a very important element. They play numerous essential roles, such as being protective, decorative, recreational, representative, and most importantly, can be a natural filtration system for water. Depending on the intended use, a green space is a significant aspect in any development project or industrial area, as the kind of greenery selected can be a specific species that will adapt to the terrain conditions, serving multiple purposes. During construction of industrial facility, terrain configuration is transformed, water relations and climate are changed, and plant communities destroyed, leading to destruction of the land and in connection the water. To alleviate negative effects of industrial areas, vegetation has been used to form protection zones. Plant communities grown on the premises of the facility. Green spaces regulate water relations, prevent erosion, and reduce negative impact on the adjacent areas. Land relief, and last but not least, improve the climate. Green spaces function well when they are introduced in the right places. In urbanized lands, industrial areas are generally located close to residential and commercial areas due to ease of access for material and human resources. These industrial areas annually discharge large volumes of contaminated stormwater to the receiving waters. There is a responsibility to those living downstream and to Nebe, where the runoff ends up flowing into the waterways. Green infrastructure practices, which were initially introduced as a land conservation strategy to enhance green space in urban areas, can provide benefits in source control of runoff generated in industrial areas. The rapid advancement of industrialization has become one of the major threats to natural environment over the years. Green infrastructure is a design strategy for handling runoff that reduces runoff volume and distributes the flow by using vegetation, soils, and natural processes to manage the water and create healthier urban and suburban environments. Green infrastructure is an approach to water management that protects, restores, or mimics the natural water cycle. Green infrastructure is effective, economical, and enhances community safety and quality of life. In these urban areas, these green spaces are crucial in bringing back opportunities to reconnect with water and build that loving, respectful relationship. These green spaces are a way to teach our children how important the water is to the land and how important the land is to the water. These spaces can bring opportunities to teach everyone that the water is not just a commodity, not for recreational enjoyment or entertainment purposes. The bay is Mother Earth's lifeblood, and she is what provides the life force that allows the world to flow in coexistence with the planet. If the disrespect, neglect, and poisoning continues, she will cease to give us life. Finally, in this last chapter, I will speak about how important it is to remember that we all have a responsibility to water and Mother Earth and all living beings to assure we all continue to thrive. For anyone who may not have seen one of these before, this is a wampum belt. A long time ago it was said, as the Haudenosaunee and the Dutch discovered much about each other, an agreement was made as to how they were to treat each other and live together. Each of their ways would be shown in the purple rows running the length of the wampum belt. In one row is a ship with the white man's ways, in the other a canoe with the Haudenosaunee ways. Each will travel down the river of life, side by side. Neither will attempt to steer the other's vessel. Some would say this is where two-eyed seeing comes into play. Two-eyed seeing is a term coined by Mi'kmaq elder Albert Marshall, referring to seeing the strengths of Indigenous ways with one eye and simultaneously seeing the strengths of Western ways with the other eye. In order to coexist on this planet side by side with Nabe, Aki, and the natural world, we need to reconcile our differences, embrace our strengths, and acknowledge our wisdom and the knowledge we carry. Truth and reconciliation is a process of acknowledging the truth and seeking justice for harms caused by human rights abuses. It is often used to address the legacy of residential schools, which were institutions that forcibly separated Indigenous children from their families and cultures in Canada. Truth and reconciliation intended to establish and maintain a mutually respectful relationship between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people, working towards a more just and equitable future. Truth and reconciliation to me, as an Anishinaabe Kwe, is so much more than this statement. To truly reconcile with Indigenous people, you must reconcile with all of our relatives. That includes Aki the land, Nabe the water, and all living beings on this planet. Anishinaabe have always walked gently on Mother Earth, and that is true connection. Anishinaabe people want to share knowledge and communicate openly. Creating ethical space is a good way to build a comfortable space to collaborate. Ethical space is a venue for collaboration and advice sharing and cross-validation, where one side validates the other's decisions. We coexist together learning from our elder relatives, the trees, rocks, plants, and animals. Remembering to always leave your surroundings better than you found them without waste, overconsumption, greed, or disrespect. Always having the understanding that we do not own anything. We are simply borrowing it from the next 7 generations to come. Recognizing that Anishinaabe people will always include the water and the land in all talks, discussions, and negotiations. To accept or to give one of these wampum belts in an agreement was equivalent of an agreement of nation-to-nation relationship based on truth. Framework based on the premise of genuine peace, respect, and friendship. The wampum belt you see here in this photo is not the only wampum belt, and it is not the only agreement made. However, it is a very important one to share, and I feel that it can also be utilized to emphasize the agreement that we all have with Nabe and Aki. The Water is Life banner you see in this photo and many others like it has been seen around the world. Indigenous people all over the world have been fighting for protection and care of the water. We need to pray for her, speak to her, give thanks and gratitude for everything she does, everything she is. And when we do this, we are helping her to heal. I have always been taught that women carry and protect the water. We are the life givers and water carriers. When we are pregnant and carry that life and give birth, we are the only ones who bring spirit from the spirit realm into this earthly realm. We grow in water. We are born from water, and we are made from water. The other beautiful bright painting that you see pictured, I felt was an amazing representation of the connection the water beings and the earth beings have with one another. Their spirits know each other. They have never forgotten their place in creation and how important each other is within the cycle of everything. Every life on Turtle Island matters. Our traditional cultural teachings have always talked about the connectedness of women and water. The spirit of a woman is strong and loving. Through colonial practices, the lives of Indigenous women have been disregarded. To bring the respect back to our women, we must remember our cultural teachings. In Anishinaabe culture and teachings, women are water protectors, the water carriers, and life givers, just like Nabe. As a woman coming from a First Nation community that is surrounded by water, my whole life is water. I feel that connection to her. She is my relative. She is my family. I feel her fear and uncertainty. I notice when I see subtle changes in the way she moves, looks, and smells, understanding that she has real emotions and feelings too. I'm often confused and frustrated by the carelessness and selfish actions that disconnect in Nabe. It is important that I offer Sama to the waters and give thanks for all that she does. It lets her know how grateful I am for her, for giving me and my children nourishment, for giving me and my children life, for teaching me perseverance, showing me strength and unconditional love. Asama is the Ojibwe word for tobacco, and it was one of the first medicines that the Anishinaabe people received from Creator. It allows us to send our prayers up with the smoke, and then Eagle carries them to Creator. The next time you are giving thanks or sharing how grateful you are, think about Nabe. Include her in your prayers. Ajanyang is the traditional name for our community where I live on Lake Simcoe. And from what I understand, the word Ajanyang talks about the waters of Lake Simcoe being beautiful and shiny like that of a coin. As we celebrate World Water Day, let us not just think about water on this one day. Let us use this day as an opportunity to celebrate what we have done and what we'll continue to do for the water. I would also like to take a minute to acknowledge the spring equinox, a time when Nabe starts to move again. She comes out of that slowing down time, that restful time of winter, and starts to bring new life once again. I think about climate change and the warming of the earth. What will that do to her resting time? What will happen when she cannot slow down and rest? Nabe needs that time every year to replenish herself and gather her strength for the coming spring. She deserves to be rejuvenated and nourished too. She needs time for her health. Her immunity becomes compromised too. There is no separation. What happens to us happens to her. These are pictures that I had taken just recently outside my house. The first was taken when Nabe was still frozen, and the second was March 11th, 2024. You can see the ice has melted and Nabe is just starting to move. I would also like to acknowledge what an absolute pleasure it is to be able to witness the gift of watching the seasons change. Anishinaabe people have always had a close relationship with these waters, and we understand that she needs to be respected. The earth needs to be respected. Watch the animals and plants. You will learn valuable lessons. They are letting us know that something is not right. There is an unease amongst nature. They are coming out of hiding and letting themselves be seen and felt and heard. But we are not listening. Not only because their homes are being destroyed, but because their mother is being destroyed. Humility is understanding that we do not know everything. In fact, we know very little. We do not always know what is best, and we need to listen to Nabe, Aki, the animals, the plants, all of nature, in order to find that balance once again. Climate change, the warming of the planet, pollution, and sickness of these waters. These are natural consequences because there is a continued choice to not listen and slow down. I was listening to water teachings from an elder, Nokomis, and knowledge carrier by the name of Mary Elliott, and she said, "We were given original instructions, and it is us, the most pitiful, that have the hardest time remembering and following through with these instructions." Another strong elder, Nokomis knowledge carrier, Edna Manitwabi, said, "Anishinaabe, were the last ones created and lowered to Turtle Island, the human being. Because of how we are shaped and molded, we have that special connection with Mother Earth and all creation. It's a whole family. Everything has its family and purpose. Connection, communication, and respect for all land and all creation, all life. The dominant society does not have that. These words from these women, these strong Nokmisug, really resonated with me. I am always reminded, and I always remind my children, we must always give thanks and express our gratitude for the water. There is a ripple effect to everything we do, and everything we say, and everything that we feel. How do you want the next 7 generations to remember this time period? We see this loss of connection in ways that cannot be ignored. Not having clean drinking water, not having clean water to bathe our children, not being able to swim in the lakes with beach closures due to bacteria. The fish and aquatic species are becoming diseased and sick to the point where they cannot be eaten. Our animal and plant relatives are becoming sick and diseased from the water. In Anishinaabe culture, we pass our knowledge and teachings down verbally. We are storytellers. Our culture passed down in this way from generation to generation. This is how we remember our original instructions, natural law, from Creator. We remember how we are to live in this world, coexisting in balance, love, and harmony, living in kindness and unconditional love. Nebe and Aki are sacred gifts. We are reaping harsh consequences for taking these gifts for granted. Water gives life, but it can also take life. When we approach ideas, communication, life from the heart, the mind will automatically start to generate ideas from a place of love and kindness. Problem solving then comes from a place that co-creates progress and solutions in a good way that benefits all creation. Anishinaabe people, traditionally, we have always been taught and continue to teach our children to live in unison with Mother Earth, and how we have always had a responsibility to live a good way. Minoba Mazuin, in Ojibwe, this is how we say the good life, and it speaks about walking gently on Mother Earth and being aware of how we treat creation. I choose to walk gently. Do you? Miigwech. Please do look into these amazing artists. If there is anything that I can help you with or any further information I can provide, I can be reached at tammycharles@hotmail.com.